We are going to go ahead and jump the gun because I have a bunch of boxes and I don't know how much time I'm going to have to get through it all. So I hope everyone is having a very good evening. This is going to be unboxing and looking at swords. So, do I have a knife somewhere? I don't. Everyone, hang on a second. I'm going to bump myself off first. Well, we're back, and I have a knife. It's not the best knife in the world, but I am constantly searching for utility knives. Again, I have combat weapons, I have overly sized knives, I have Langensmessers, but when I need a knife just to open a box, I have kitchen knives, I have, you know, hobby knives, but I don't have knives. At some point, I'm going to have to get someone who makes knives to send me just like a simple. The best knife I ever had for doing things like opening boxes was the buy knife that was with the Winter Cutlery Ljubljana set. That knife was I could use for everything, but I don't study knives. I don't collect knives, so there we are. So we're going to get right to it because I have three very large boxes, and I don't know how many swords are inside, and I don't know how much time I have. So we'll start with this one. This is a heavy box, and these boxes may be from the same vendor. They may not be from the same vendor. I'm not sure. So we're going to find out together. It'll be a bit of a mystery. As always, I'll try and attend to everyone in chat at the same time. So as you have comments or questions, especially if they're sword related, we will try and get to you. I'll try and do this without injuring product or life or limb. Oh my goodness gracious, this is very dense. I'm not sure how this was put together, other than the fact that there's a lot of styrofoam inside of it. So styrofoam 1, styrofoam 2. Let's see. What's it going to be, guys? This is a kind of funny shaped box. I see something hiding in there, but I can't tell what it is. Okay. Do you think it'll just come out if I pull on it? It's not coming out. Okay. So hello to Blindy. Hello to Cuter. All right, I'm going to try the old-fashioned tip-over method. It looks like stuff is sliding out now. So box number 1. These are all hailing from China, so that's the first. That's the first spoiler alert that we have. I'm trying to salvage the box in case any of these needs to keep traveling along, but sometimes that's not possible. Okay. No, we may have to open it up a little bit further. It is not coming out. Alright, I got a hold of it. I got a hold of something. Huh, I think I know what this is. I think that this is more than one item in the box together, in which case I'm probably going to, here, let me see if I can haul it without injuring it. Nope. All right, so we're going to have to cut down the box, which means we're going to have to bully it with a larger knife. Okay, so like I said before, I don't have utility knives. So we're just going to switch to the Tanto. Sortier upgraded the Type 20A. A Sortier upgrade Type 20A would be cool. LKChen has been on the late one-handed Dao, a bit further away from your interests. So we have a Sortier big sword around the corner that we can look at later on if everyone is interested. But I don't think that's what's in here. I'm going to have to be really careful how I open this. One, because the box is really thick. And two, just because the item inside is going to take up a majority of the box. So, okay, here, let me use all of my skills for cutting that I have practiced over the years. I feel like I'm carving a fish. Hopefully that loosened it up a little bit. It's a very thick box. Okay, let's see if that produced enough looseness. I'm going to try and hold it. This is really tricky. Okay, I think I can get part of it out. My goodness, guys. You wouldn't believe how this is in there. And again, I'm trying to do this in a way that it doesn't hurt anything. But it is just packed. Ah, my goodness. Who knew that you guys would all just tune in to see me fight with how this was going to be packed? Okay. There we go. All right. So check this out. If I can get this part out. Can you guys see it coming out? All right. All right. Anyone want to take a guess as to what this is? You can see why it absolutely did not want to come out of the box, because it has all the wrong types of shapes to want to easily come once it is put inside of something. It's actually quite pretty. I like how that is formed. All right, so that's the first part. Then, oh, goodness, this is still stuck. There we go. Okay. I think that there may still be some elements in there, but for tonight, I'm not going to get the remainder of that out. So, did anyone correctly guess what the first part was? Let's see. Blindy says, hoping to see European style swords from Romance of Men. And then Cuter says Hook Shield, and that is correct. So this is one part of the Gorong from LKChen's line. So this is Han era, Han Dynasty type of hand shield that was used in conjunction with both Jian and Dao. It's got a very distinctive kind of small buckler that has pointed tip and two controlling arms on either side of it. And I've actually experimented with one of these in some of the older videos, but this is a newer, updated model. It's quite nice in the hand. I rather like how this is put together. And so the remainder of it's probably still in the box. Tonight is not the night to assemble all of it, because the way it comes, it's disassembled, so you have to screw it together. If we still have time and people are still interested, maybe I'll fish the rest of it out of the box. But first item of the night is a Gorong. So the year range on the Han Dynasty is basically overlapping heavily with Imperial Rome. So you can think of it roughly as 3rd century BC to 3rd century AD. And then some of you may have seen what was poking out over here. Let's see if we can have that hop out. So also packed along with it is this, he's had this in his line for a long time, but I just haven't had the chance to get my hands on one yet. So this is also from the Han Dynasty. So this is a very old, complex hilted sword. You know, it goes back to the practically the Iron Age. And this is what we'd call probably a D-guard John. So it's a John that has a knuckle bow. And just to show you how big this knuckle bow is, here is an 1796 pattern light cavalry saber, and take a look at the size of this knuckle bow by comparison. So you can see this is a huge guard on here. It's almost the size of like a hand-and-a-half sword or something like that. And you know, it's one of those things where we have a couple surviving examples. We don't just have a single one. And so you can see, even with my big hands, I can fit it with room to spare. I could get another hand in there just barely. I could put the other one down there. So you have a couple of different options. It's really nicely formed, I've got to say. I've seen the pictures of the original, and the original ones look like real questionable, as if they're just kind of like cobbled together in some cases. They're not as elegant and intricately formed as many of the other examples that we have of hilt furniture during the Han Dynasty. Let me see. And it'll come apart. And we have a blade on there that is this really big, broad cutting blade. So, you know, it's going to feel in the hand, I'm going to have to do experimentations with it, but anyone who gets hold of this, based on how broad and thin this is going to feel almost like a light version of a side sword. So this is going to feel like a 19, you know, something from the 1500s. So a side sword that has a broad cutting blade and hand protection, but basically made at around the time of Christ. So made almost a millennia and a half before they were doing anything like this in Europe. This is a really fascinating type of sword, and it's going to be fun, and it's going to cut like the dickens based on how long, how much leverage you have, and how wide the sword is. Really neat and a lot of fun. So it's really cool. This one is, you know, I've seen it once or twice from a couple of my other sword friends that I've had online, and I wasn't ever champing at the bits to get it, because the other swords from the line, the Magnificent Chu, the Roaring Dragon, the Flying Phoenix, those all show the beautiful artistry, the wonderful sense of design that existed from the swords that were buried in the imperial tombs during the Han, of which we have hundreds and hundreds of examples of. And this is really just like some weird one-off sword that we have a couple of examples of, but were part of what we can only conjecture was part of their fencing culture. So rather than a battlefield sword or a sword that you wore about town to show off how cool you were, this is a sword that was probably used maybe in practice, or again, maybe it's like a small sword or a rapier where folks went around town and then got into fights, and they pulled these out when they wanted to go after each other and wanted to protect your hand. And just looking at it, it never really attracted my eye compared to the other more beautiful, more flashy swords. So I wasn't ever really jumping at the opportunity to get my hands on one. There's the other version also, the disc guard, or the shell guard version. So there's one that's got a big shell in front of it. But now that I have it in hand, this is a really, really neat sword. And it's going to cut like anything. This is going to cut as good as a bastard sword or a long sword. So it's really impressive, especially for such an old design for a sword that's from that's 2,000 years old. It's quite the design. Okay, so let me check in with chat real fast, and then we'll move on to the next ones. Yeah, Blindy appreciates it. You're thinking about the Qin for some reason. So the Qin dynasty was only existed for a tiny little period. So unification only happened for an amazingly small period after the Warring States, and then is quickly supplanted by the Han, which lasts for a much longer period of time. Yeah, Blindy, it's a pretty neat sword. I'm not gonna lie, it's pretty neat. Yeah, so Alan, come and take a look. It's mystery box day. So I opened the first box. We had a Gorang and a complex hilted Jian from LK Chen. So once again, LK Chen, a longtime friend of the channel. Thank you, Mr. Chen. Thank you, KK, his representative in America. Probably the single best representative of any one from a production company anywhere. And now we have a couple other boxes, again, also from China. So not sure exactly what's in here, but I have a hunch. So let's take a look. All right. Will the small knife be sufficient to open these up? And to me, it looks like these are two boxes stuck together. So I might try and separate the boxes first and then see if that's easier to identify what's going on. Let's see. Okay. All right. One box, two box? Yeah. Okay. All right. Guesses, guys. Are these going to be sabers? Are they going to be katana? Are they going to be Jian? Are they going to be... I don't think they're going to be long swords just based on their height. These are coming up to a little bit above my belly button. It's going to be something else. All right. How do they open up? All right. I want to take them completely apart just so we can see how the boxes are packed. So the other day I received a package from Sortier, and I had received packages from Sortier before, and I had opened them while filming and showed everyone what it was like. But this package I decided to open off stream, and as soon as I did, I was furious because the packaging that Alex has done, at least for that box, was spectacular, and I'm really impressed at the way that Sortier has worked to prepare the boxes for shipping, which is the best I had seen for any production sword recently. Oh, this is quite nice. So this is similar to how we... oh, look at this. Interesting. Now, I'm about to make a comment on this also. So this is not Sortier, although the type of packaging is close. Not exactly as good, but certainly close. So this is almost certainly from Romance of Men, and I'm going to show you how it comes packed in pre-cut out foam. So it's very, very nicely seated. So this is one of the European line from Romance of Men. So big thanks to Enrique for letting me have the opportunity to send it over. And this looks like, let's see. This has a rounded pommel on it, and it's a pretty long grip. So even though it might, he's probably calling this an arming sword, but based on the length of this grip, it's a pretty long arming sword length. So we'll probably, I'm going to call this a hand and a half sword. But I believe that this one corresponds to the Vanguard arming sword. So we have a round wheel pommel with a nice brass inlay there. So I think Maltese cross that we can see in the center. The peen is handsomely put on. Nothing feels too bad. One side of the pommel is maybe very slightly sharp. The hilt, the cross is all very nicely turned, so it's nice and soft there. And then we have a pretty handsomely done scabbard. It's nice to come along. I believe that these are all priced around $400. So I'm not doing a full review right now. So we'll double check prices and all of that for the formal review. But I'll go into this today. Just we're doing first impressions, assuming it's around $400. It does come with a little belt. The scabbard, I can already tell, is a little on the thick side, but it's very sturdy, so it's not going to be damaged. Has this tiny little braided wire here just for some accent. It has a simple U-shaped shape, which is completely fine. No complaints there at all. And let's pull it out. Yeah, it's a little thick on the scabbard. Here's the scabbard end. And we have this nice broad blade, and this is again going to be like a Type 20 with the multiple fullers going on in it. A lot of Type 20s are going on as of late. I'm not sure what's going on with this ferrule here. The ferrule is probably here to aid with holding on the leather, presumably. And I don't like how the ferrule is. I don't like how the ferrule sits in the hand there. It's got just a simple square cut out for the shoulders there. The blade looks okay. I don't see any major gripes about how the blade's put together. Oh, it is. We're gonna have to be careful with that. That is going to be quite sharp. Let me do a paper test. I think we're going to go right through any paper that comes across. All right. All right. Paper test. Yeah. So this is sharp. This is a real sharp one. This is putting to shame like any type of Hanwei or Kingston Arms or any type of those swords that have bad edges. No. This is a nice sword. Let me wipe it down real fast. Where do I even have my terry towel? I do not have my terry towel around. Okay, here. Here's my terry towel. Okay. Okay, there. That way I can touch the blade if I want. Give it a little bit of a flex. It's a bit on the stiff side, but it does exhibit distal taper. It feels okay in the hand. Again, he's building this as an arming sword. This really kind of there's no way that this is a single-handed sword grip. So I'll have to talk to Enrique about renaming it, because if someone's buying this and they're expecting an arming sword, they're not getting an arming sword proportion. So this is a hand and a half sword with a big Type 20 or 20A blade on it. But yeah, it's a handsome blade, and this is going to cut like the dickens because it's got a lot of presence. And if you put two hands on it, then it turns pretty lively. Trying to use it single-handed would be a little cumbersome. Putting two hands on it, it seems to feel pretty good. I'm not sure what's going on with this here. Now, something that some of you may have seen that I didn't mention when I pulled it out is it came with a little block, and this is a whetstone. So it came with its own polishing / sharpening stone with the sword. I've never seen any company do that before. I don't know if he does this with his katana or with his other blades, but that is a really neat little addition. That's pretty cool. I like that. So very, very cool. So yeah, this definitely has a lot of potential. Well, there's going to be good things to say about. There's going to be a couple comments and room for improvement, for sure. But it feels fun in the hand. It definitely is going to be able to cut. And Romance of Men is going to make a sword that's not going to just fall apart in your hand. So this one is good. Let's see what the next one is. So I suspect that these boxes are all 4 of his European line. So anyone who was at Blindy who was interested in seeing them, if so, then I suspect you're going to be happy tonight. Let's see what else we've got going on here. Southeast Asian swords. Yeah. Romance of Men has always packed their swords good. You knew you get the European line. Good economy, semi-custom. A handful of bladesmiths produce batches and sell them to assemblers. Both the katana and the dao from Romance came spectacularly sharp. Yeah, so I know that they certainly can produce a range of sharpness. The only other sword I have experience with, specifically with Romance of Men, is the Fukyo katana, and that's an entry-level katana, and it came perfectly fine sharp. Now, I've talked to Enrique before, and I know that he can produce swords in different levels of sharpness, depending on what either the customer needs or what different price points that there are. So these swords did not have to be sharp, and we've only tested one so far, so it's possible that the others will not be as sharp as that one is. So let's see as we go along and find out what else we have. All right. And the next one up is another European sword. And this one was not packed in its scabbard. The previous one came packed in its scabbard. And so this one is packed in, sandwiched in foam instead. So let's pull out the scabbard first. And just like the previous sword, it also came with a sanding block. So this one's kind of interesting. It has a couple little recesses here. It looks like maybe there was supposed to be a belt and some additional flare that would go on there. I'll just double check. I do not see anything packed along with it that's supposed to go on here. So I'll double check the product page afterwards to see if there was something that was supposed to be adorned here that got missing. But I don't see anything on here that's extra to adorn it. Really nice little chape here on the end. This is called the Aquila arming sword. I like how this shape is done. I think that this is a kind of later style shape because this is going to be a type either 14 or type 16 style arming sword. And this type of shape is probably like going towards the 15th century or a little bit later. So maybe we could get away with it. Maybe we couldn't. Like how the mouth of the shape, the scabbard is worked. On the whole, this is a fun scabbard. This is a nice little scabbard that we have here. So I'll bring it up so that everyone can see. It's handsomely turned. Just on the whole, very well done. Nice even stitching all along the back. There you go. And then let's bring the bad boy out. I'm going to need to cut these, so let me bring out my snips. One snip. Oh my, these are very heavy duty zip ties that we have on here. 2. All right, that should be enough. It says, caution, injure hand. Take it seriously. You may injure hand if you touch. Okay. Out we go. So the sword has been removed, and it has lots of wrapping and oil on it. Oh man, I think I'm going to be very happy with this. This looks like we have a Type 14 blade here, and I've been needing a Type 14 for a while. I've been missing one. Um, I was babysitting an Albion Sovereign a while back, and of course I fell in love with that blade. And it's possible that we could describe this as a Type 16. Type 16s will often have the same cross section as Type 14s. The difference is really in kind of the thickness. This one does not seem, it's got a little bit of reinforcing here. So this is somewhere in between. This is somewhere between a Type 16 and a Type 14 arming sword, I'd say, because I can see that there is a little bit of a swell right here at the fuller termination, so that it gets actually very slightly thicker when it switches over to diamond cross section for the remaining portion of it. Let me see if I can grab it. Test the flex. It's pretty stiff. So this is probably leaning, I'd probably say it's more like 60% Type 16 and 40% Type 14. But it feels really nice in the hand. Oh yeah. This would be a lot of fun. The leather is adequate. I can feel the stitching on it. It's got a dimension to the grip going all the way around this way. It's got a very handsome pommel. It looks like it's got a German eagle stamped in the center of it. The peen is actually tucked in very flush there at the end. It's the pommel itself feels good. It's not particularly rough. The grip is slightly slick, but not too bad. If you had greasier hands than me, maybe you'd be out of luck. Once again, I think that the grip is slightly on the long side. This one isn't as bad as the other one, but I think it's still a little bit too long for a typical arming sword. I'd like to see that reduced a little bit on the whole. And it's a long blade. It's getting to all of these Type 16s and Type 14s are not as long as some of the earlier blades. But if we test the sharpness again, let's see. And once again, it's still super duper sharp. So this this is going to be one of my new favorite swords to cut with. I can tell right now. I don't even have to do test cutting. I can tell you right now that this one's going to be a joy to cut with. This one actually has a lot more dimension in the cross. The cross is, again, nicely shaped, nothing sharp or hot on it. And you can see that it has the cutout for the shoulders actually fitted to the blade's shape much better. So this is a handsome little sword right here. I rather like this one. This is cool. Yeah. I think I'd get a lot of fun out of this. So we could talk to him about reducing the hilt length on some of these future swords, but I think that he's still carrying a lot of mass out here in the blade, and so he's thinking, okay, well, we have to have a long hilt with a big pommel in order to counteract that. And so it just depends on how much blade you have. The blade's not terrible. It's just perhaps very slightly overweight and could be reduced. But this one's going to be a lot of fun. I'm gonna really enjoy working with this one. Great, awesome. Okay, let's see if it slips in. Shoot. Nice retention too. Take a look at that. That's a pretty handsome package, I gotta say. For a company that's doing their first foray into European swords, especially at the price point they're offering, this is a pretty good offering. So that's what, like, I have to commend anyone who wants to explore a territory that that they don't specialize in. And this is why I never want to give a letter grade to a company. I always want to give them to individual swords. Because some companies will be spectacular at one thing and terrible at something else. So a company can be great at making a Chinese jian and terrible at making a longsword, or a company can be wonderful at making arming swords and terrible at making katana. So whenever someone wants to try something new and say, hey, I'm going to suddenly start making rapier, like, that's great. Let's see what you can do. And oftentimes it doesn't go super well the first time, and it takes them a while to iterate on it and see if they're really committed and want to try and do something. Sometimes they're just very experienced, and if they're competent craftsmen. My favorite example of this is Passeri Handicrafts. He often produces swords outside of his typical base. So he has a kind of standard catalog of sabers and swords. And every now and then he'll just be like, oh, by the way, I'm making this sword that is completely different than any of the other ones that I've done in the past. And it comes out wonderfully. And it's not necessarily because he's incredibly versed at that specific model of sword. It's because he is a very talented bladesmith, and he knows, one, what type of research needs to go into it, two, what makes a good sword, and three, he puts in the time and effort to actually execute on it. And so companies that are able to do the same are the ones that excel. So even if they are operating outside of their comfort zone, then they're the first time out, it may not be perfect, but already, like, these swords that I'm looking at, they're not the most expensive swords in the world, but they're outperforming swords that we may have had on the market for years and years and years and years. And we're like, oh, why can't you make a blade with distal taper? Why can't you have swords that handle more nicely? Why can't you put an actual sharp edge on your medieval European sword the way that you can put an edge on a cheap Japanese sword? They're getting things right that the market has needed to do for the European market that they've been missing for a long time. So I'm really happy to see this, and I hope that I hope this trend continues. All right. Yep. Enrique, I'm very impressed at everything that is coming my way. Okay, which one first? Well, it looks like one's in my lap. Okay, how's this one open? I have no idea how it opens. All right. This side, okay. Does anyone remember what the two other models are? We got two that are bigger than the ones that I've already opened, so. Which side do I cut from? This side? Oh my goodness gracious. There's staples here, guys. My favorite. Okay, here. There we go. Okay. Step one. These staples are getting me. I'm gonna definitely need a new knife after this. Okay. All right. Okay, and here, take a look at how beautiful this is done. This is really, really lovely package. So the outside of the box is nothing too spectacular to look at. It's just typical plain, yellow wrapping as is executed by many Chinese manufacturers. But the inside of the box is really, really very nicely tucked in. This type of close open cell foam that is cut to the size and shape of each of the swords and as needed zip tied in. I really appreciate how this attention to detail and how these swords are packaged to make sure that nothing is going to shift in transit. These are really nice, and the ones I received from Swordier were similar to this attention to detail. So once again, this sword is packed with a belt and sanding stone. I'm gonna have sharpening stones from Now Till Kingdom Come. Have a nice belt attached. And well, here's one for all the Lord of the Rings fans. Okay, so this one is called the Dragon Whisper, the longsword. And look at how pretty this is. My camera is not doing it justice, but it is really quite lovely in person. So it is indeed a longsword of some kind, which we'll take a look in a second. It's just got a simple shape down at the end. I like how the scabbard does have the some of the, it's not really risers, but it has the body that's been shaped and formed underneath it. The attachment points aren't awesome, but they're okay. Once again, it has a little bit of this wire wrap that's been added that helps give it a little bit more, just makes it a little bit more fancy. It's got these two really nice colorful buttons that have been added around each of the leather attachment points for the belt. It's got asymmetric belt attachment points. I don't usually wear long swords, but I can attempt to try and wear it sometime just to see how this one hangs. And then up here we have a really nicely shaped hexagonal grip that's got stitched leather on here that seems to match the rest of the leather. A single wire, I think it's a single wire. It may actually be double wire wrapped. Yeah, so if it's double wire wrapped, that is pretty good. Yeah, it's a double wire. So that's more historically accurate. So this is consistent with what you'd see, especially like maybe at the end of the 15th century, but going into the 16th century, you'll find double wire wrapped grips, either half grip or full grip, wrapped around parts of these. You'll see them on longswords, especially like in Germany. And then it's kept in via some tacks that we have right here at the top of the grip. And then it has a scent stopper faceted pommel, which is peened at the top. It's not a particularly tidy peen, but it is not a terrible aggressive peen either. It doesn't catch my finger or anything like that. This cross definitely has perhaps a little Peter Jackson inspiration, I'd say, in it, the form language of everything. So let's see what everyone's saying. The windlash you want to see. Michael asks, did you see the new Swordier two-handed Montante? I don't know if I saw the Montante from Swordier. I know that they do have a two-hander that they've had previously. If they've released a new model, then I probably have not seen it yet. So I'll have to keep my eyes open and take a look at that. All right, let's take a look at the blade on this longsword. Uh-oh. I think we may be locked in. Oh. Okay, and it's come out. Whoop. There we are. That is a nice long central fuller. So we could perhaps call this a type. If we're being generous, we could call this a type 20, a type 12A blade type. We might say that it's a post-medieval blade, so it doesn't correspond to oakshot. It's a very light blade compared to the rest of the hilt, so it wants to balance really close. Let me see. It wants to balance like right there. So it's so light that it feels almost like nothing in the hand. It feels almost like a one-handed sword. The other arming swords that I was handling felt more massive in the hand than this. That's in part because of the big pommel that I have on the end of it, and just because this blade is really thin and exhibits a lot of distal taper. It's got good harmonics on it. Let me see where it pivots real fast. Hang on. Oh yeah, it pivots really nicely. Oh, this is gonna be fun to cut with. Not a lot of wind that's coming off of it, but yeah, I mean, I can manipulate this with one hand very easily, and with two hands, it's just about bordering on overkill. And once again, we will test the edge on it. Okay, that edge and this edge. Yeah, so it's plenty sharp on here. So just out of curiosity, if I compare it to the Balor Arms 15th century, I think it's slightly heavier overall, but they're of a very similar both size and handling type. And the Balor Arms 15th century Italian longsword has a reputation for being among the most nimble longswords that's out there. So that's a big compliment to the handling of this longsword, that that it can have such a broad blade, and it will still handle like the Balor Arms Italian 15th century. It's even slightly longer than it. Wow. Huh, that's very interesting. Okay, cool. Well, I'll look forward to testing that one out. That is a really neat sword. It's got a little, yeah, because it's so broad, it's a little whippy at the tip, which means you're going to have to really practice your edge alignment. Otherwise, it may be a little unforgiving for you. But this is a very handsome sword, and it's going to be very fast and easy to work with. Pretty neat. Okay, one last one to go, and I think that's the one that some of you guys had already predicted. Okay. All right. Okay, well, just looking at this is, here, let's see if I can hold this up. This is the type of sword that everyone online is always asking, where can I get a sword like this? This is quite the thing. Oh my goodness. All right. So this is the Windlash, and it is very much the companion piece to the Dragon Whisper longsword. So it's got the same color scheme, it's got the same wrapping going on here, it's got the same buttons for suspension, but it's done as a two-handed saber. So it's once again, I like how the leather is. I like the shape. The shape is simple but consistent with how you would do um, a saber's shape, with the one side being slightly longer on the edge side. It has asymmetric quillons. It's got an S-guard quillon on here. One of the tacks is a little high, so I have to tuck this tack in. Can I do it with my finger? I can't. So I don't know if you guys can see that on here, but one of the tacks is just sticking out very slightly, and I can't really catch my fingers on it, but it just needs to be tapped in. So I'll have to tap that in myself. And then it's got this big, very quite large fishtail pommel. This is a really, really big. I wish I had something to compare it to, but it's quite large, a fishtail pommel. The edges are pretty good on it. I'm not really going to catch myself or scratch myself on the fishtail pommel. It's got a decent amount of dimensionality on it. It probably could have a little bit more, but on the whole, it looks pretty good. I've seen much flatter renditions of fishtails done before. And let's pull it out. See what the blade looks like. All right, there you go. So, who wanted your super long two-handed saber? If anyone ever wanted a rendition of the Heronmark sword from Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time, perhaps this will scratch that itch. So it has a pretty thick spine that's starting off on here, and it tapers down pretty dramatically there. It does have a false edge, which is not particularly sharp. So you can't really perform back false edge cuts with it. It's not going to be able to cut on that side. It has what I would call Kiraha Zakuri cross section, meaning that it's flat sided and then has a bevel that goes down on the primary to the primary edge most of the way down the length of the blade. So this would lead for a pretty robust sword that's not going to chip or get injured easily. Let me see what the edge is like. Yeah, the edge cuts. Yeah, paper cutting sharp. It's got a kind of interesting back scoop over here. And that's kind of neat. I haven't seen a blade that exhibits anything quite like that, at least on the European side of things. But yeah, that's kind of interesting. So it's got a lot of presence in it. It's a little bit on the beefy side. It's definitely quite a bit heavier in the hand than the longsword, than the Dragon Whisper. So it carries a lot of meat out there in the blade. But it's definitely really striking. It's something quite interesting to see. So that's pretty neat. The weird falchion, so the looker of the bunch. Yeah, I don't know exactly what historical equivalent you might use for this. So obviously there are two-handed sabers in the medieval period, although they're kind of few and far between. In Central Europe and Eastern Europe, you can find two-handed sabers at different points in time, usually from the late 14th to 15th century onwards. There are depictions of two-handed falchions, although we don't have any surviving. So what form they took is a bit of a question. Were there two-handed falchions that had long, thin blades like the saber, or were there two-handed falchions that were more like the Thorpe falchion or the Cluny falchion? We don't know for sure. There's one falchion that might have been two-handed, the Cordoba falchion, which is an Elmsley Type 3C blade, if memory serves me. But that has an unusually short blade and an unusually long grip. So it wouldn't look anything like this. It's a kind of weird sword, but pretty much every falchion that we have that survives is weird because it doesn't really, it almost doesn't correspond to any of the other falchions that we have found before it. So they're all pretty odd on the whole. Okay, so we have seen all of them. So a recap for anyone who may have came in late. We opened from LK Chen a Han Gorang hook shield, a Han D-Guard sparring Jian, which isn't really for sparring since this one is a live sharp sword and it is going to be really nice. It's going to be a really cool sword to work with. And then for the 4 swords that are medieval style swords from Romance of Men, the 2 arming swords, which are the Aquila and the Vanguard, and then the 2 long swords, which are the Dragon Whisper and the Windlash, which is a saber, but it's a type of long sword. So I'll put this in its scabbard, and I will entertain any comments, questions, or if anyone needs to see anything more closely or one last time before I wrap everything up. I have to pick up all the shards of styrofoam that I have lying around. But I'm very impressed at all the offerings that I saw today. The D-Guard Jian from LK Chen is very impressive to me. I wasn't expecting to like it as soon as it popped out of the box in the way that I did at all. Again, it's one that I had overlooked entirely. I never would have thought to try and pick one up myself. Now I'm going to have to give this one up, and it's a shame that I'm going to have to give this one up because I really like that. So I might have to buy one myself at some point in the near future. And then the offerings from Romance of Men. This is again the first time that they're going into the medieval sphere. These are just first impressions, so I have to put the swords through their paces. But on first blush, this is a really nice showing. There's definitely going to be a spectrum where some I think are definitely nicer than others, but Enrique I think did a really good job. Michael would like to see the LK Chen swords, so I didn't pull the Gorang entirely out of the box. This is the hook portion of it. There's a plate. Do I have no, I'm not going to be able to find it. So this is how the hooky hook portion, and then you have to assemble the rest of the plate. So it comes disassembled, and then you screw it together, and you can use this as the hooked buckler to be used in conjunction with various types of Han period sword. It's a very effective defensive shield for, again, any type of hand-to-hand fighting. And that was sent to me along with the D-Guard Jian, which is so nimble and fun and thin and cutty. It has a lot of leverage and presence. And here is the blade. It's pretty much, it's kind of like a flattened diamond, but it's so thin that it's almost lenticular in cross section. And it has this very large grip. Again, this is a huge knuckle bow that's big enough that I can fit 2 hands inside of it. And it's going to be a lot of fun to work with. It's basically like a very light bastard sword or very large side sword, but done in the Chinese style back during the Han Dynasty around the time of Christ. So it's I'm really looking forward to testing this one. That one's going to be a lot of fun. The D-Guard modeled head older, doesn't look like much from photos. Yeah, it's really impressive. Yeah, so who knows what time, on what timetable I'll be able to get to reviewing all of these. Spoiler alert: I have other things on the docket already. So we will be looking at some European straight swords first, including a bronze sword at some point in time. We'll be wrapping up some more questions with James Elmsley. So if anyone has questions related to falchions or Messer, please leave a comment on any of my channel's videos. I'll get the alert and I'll direct them to Mr. Elmsley, and then we will collaborate and get together and do our best to answer any questions related to any of the previous videos or any burning questions you have related to the Elmsley typology or Messers or falchions, as we're doing a viewer special to wrap up that the previous 3 interviews that we conducted together. And we'll have, are there any other, there's 1 or 2 other videos that I have to get out in the not too distant future on just some swords that I have on loan. So I'd like to try and get those done in a timely fashion. And then eventually we'll get around to doing these. But if someone wants to see one sword in particular kind of urgently, again, if you pester me via comments, etc., I'll try and bump those up in the queue and get to them more urgently. Computer asks, is my elbow feeling better? So my arm in general, since it was not just the elbow, although the elbow was the most urgent injury, in general is doing better. All my rehabilitation and stuff seems to have worked well. Sometimes if I push myself too hard, then it kind of flares back up, and then I have to take time off or do more exercises and then get back online. But in general, I'm able to do all my usual activities, including sword related activities. So you'll see me doing sword stuff, and I should be able to go basically as hard as I want. I might sometimes modify my activity, or maybe if I'm go real hard one day, I might take a while off just in between things. Just the fun of getting older. We'll chop it up to that. Can you recommend any competitive options to Balor Arms Hungarian Saber? No, I do not. Especially if you want one that looks just like that Hungarian Saber. So the one that came out for that Hungarian Saber is a really important addition to the market, because there hasn't been anything that's nice and good and well made and representative of that type of 16th century Hungarian style saber out there that's effective and affordable, meaning that's as low cost as what Balor Arms is offering. You can find stuff that good that's more pricey than the Balor Arms example. But to find something less than that, you're going to have to compromise on design. So, for instance, Cold Steel offers like a Polish saber that has a thumb ring. And then similarly, Swordier has a Hussar saber, which is okay. It's a good. I like it for considering it's very inexpensive. I think it does very nicely. But neither of those are exactly the same type of sword that the Balor Arms saber is, and you're going to have compromises at the significantly lower price point. So no, I do not currently have any recommendations as alternatives to the Balor Arms Hungarian saber. And if you were interested in a Hungarian saber, I would say that the Balor Arms is the best bang for buck currently out there as of right now. Yeah, give the arm some space. And recommendations to check out the new two-handed sword from... All right, so we're going to do this right now in real time. Swordier. Let's see what Alex has been cooking up. Since everyone is urgent. Is it the most recent one? Is this the type 20A that you guys are talking about? The type 20A that's got the two side rings, the ports on it? Here, let me see if I can share the screen. How do I share my screen? Share screen. Okay. Oh, it's a short, you guys say. A short. Ready for release. Oh my, that is a long story. Oh my goodness. Okay, so here's the pedant in me. So, regardless of what my good friend Alex is calling it, if we have this type of hilt on the sword, it is not a montante. So, if he's calling it a montante, I don't see that anywhere. Okay, this is pretty. I'm not sure about this pinch in the center of it. So we have two things in particular. This is a really big one. He's probably basing this off of a parade sword, given how large it is. My goodness, I don't know what he's got to sell it for. So, um, as Cuter is suggesting, this it's got a couple of combination of features that you have here. So we have different names. We have Espada, we have Spadone, we have Montante, we have Great Sword, we have Schlatzschwert. This is all right. So Michael is taking ownership for it. So I don't know what Alex is going to call it, and I may have a discussion with Mr. Alex to help him out with the naming convention. This is a German example. So the fact that we have the two big ports on here, the size of the ports, the fact that we have these little almost fleur-de-lis terminals on the cross, the size of the cross, the fact that the cross is curved as much as it is, the fact that the blade is significantly wider and then narrows down into a kind of narrower ricasso. These are all like emblematic of German style two-handers. And the fact that it's so bloody big too. None of those would be present. Smaller crosses, simpler terminals, blades that are the same size as the ricasso. All of those would be typical of Iberian swords, and Italian swords would be somewhere in between the two. So this is like German. So I would call this a Schlatzschwert. Zweihander, if you want to be modern and anachronistic about it, but Schlatzschwert is what I would call this sword. So yeah, that's an interesting one. That is a big sword. Not for everybody, but yeah, I'm sure someone's going to be very happy that he's producing those. Yeah. Perfect for home defense, right? if your home has a gatehouse and a moat in front of it. All right, thank you all for pointing that out to me. Sometimes these announcements go unnoticed by me. I try and keep up with everything that's coming out, but I am imperfect, of course. So thank you all. Let me know if any of you need an extra sharpening stone. Apparently, I have plenty now, and I hope everyone found that entertaining. That was a lot of fun, and thank you, KK, and thank you, Enrique, for sending over all of these for review. I have a lot of dynamics calculators to run to figure out where everything balances and how these swords operate. First impressions are quite good, and I have to clean up the room now. All right, guys. Hope everyone's having a good night. Take care.